Okay. Thanks so much for coming. I know we'll have some more students possibly join us, but it's my pleasure to just start the forum and give us an idea of what our format will be today. We've given everyone an index card, and we have more. We'd like you to submit any questions that you would like to ask our candidate today. Pass them down to the end, and then Eric and I will bring them up to Sarah, and then she'll ask. She has some starting questions to get us off to a start. We also have a feedback sheet. Your voice is very important to this process. Students are the reason that GRCC is here, and our serving you is very important. So we want your feedback on those forms, so we ask that you fill those out before you leave today. Okay, we have about 40 minutes before our candidate is rushed off to another forum that he will go to after this. Okay, so I think everyone knows Sarah Wiltenberg, who's our Student Congress President. Thanks for being here again, Sarah.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And she's going to act as our moderator today, and we'll be asking the questions. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Joynton, who is our candidate that we've brought in today from Alpena Community College, and we are very pleased to have him here. He's given us the mitt of where that's located. Okay. Great. And we're very excited to have you here, and very excited to have the opportunity for you to engage and interact with our students, and opportunity for them to hear from you in terms of your future leadership of Grand Rapids Community College. So I'll turn it over to Sarah, and she'll start. And Dr. Joynton, if you want to just come down here, the two of you, and we'll begin. This is very informal, just as we did it the last time, and it worked out very well.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here. It's a pleasure to see the students.
All right, we'll just dive right into it. Our first question this morning is, what do you see as unique challenges facing community colleges, and how would you address them?
Well, the unique challenges of community colleges, compared to what I guess would be the follow-up in my mind, compared to other institutions in our society that try to help people reach their fullest potential and help to enrich their lives, as your vision statement here says. The unique challenges of community colleges compared to, say, four-year universities are principally the breadth of our access that we try to achieve. We do try to provide learning opportunities at community colleges for just all kinds of people who have seen the need for learning as a way of moving their lives forward. And so the diversity, which is very important to GRCC's mission and very important in my own value system of learners. And the last forum that I was in, I was asked to describe three typical community college students. And I've been a faculty member for about 20 years, and as well as being an administrator. I thought about some of the students that I'd had as a faculty member, and maybe you recognize some of the types among your classmates. First fellow was a guy in the very first class that I ever taught for a community college. I come from Houston, Texas, before I went to Alpena. And Bob Mormon was his name. He was in his late 30s. This was back in the dark ages, before you were born, in the mid-70s. He was a welder on the Alaska Pipeline Project, and he had a wife and several children, and he was taking an evening class at the community college. And he had lots of priorities and responsibilities in his life, and he somehow needed to make the class an efficient experience for him. Things go in a business-like manner. He was there for a purpose, very dedicated. He had limitations on his time, and no nonsense. Don't try to relate to me. Don't try to be my friend. Just let's get the learning done. That's one kind of student that you have, and that there's a significant challenge to have the right courses in the right places at the right times for very busy people. Another type of student, second type, I was given three. Second type is the kind of student who has excelled in high school and makes a deliberate choice of a community college as the best learning environment that he or she can find. Sometimes for the sake of remaining in touch with friends, sometimes for financial reasons. That person will deliberately choose not to go off far away to a big four-year school, but to choose the quality instruction and the nurture the home environment and the familiar surroundings for maybe an extra year or so of maturation. That's a very important function that community colleges fulfill, where you will be taught by a fully qualified professor instead of a teaching assistant who's just getting started, where you will be taught in a small classroom rather than being engulfed in a large auditorium with 300, 400, 500 students, as you've heard about and maybe experienced yourself. And for that person, the challenge of the community college is to provide a really stimulating environment. The honors program that you have right here will give you that extra challenge, that extra depth of understanding. Service learning is an important part of your functions, your opportunities here. So getting out in the community and learning through performing service and representing the college in that way is another challenge that you are at GRCC meeting extraordinarily well. I'm really impressed with the programs you have for that. I told a story in the previous forum with the faculty at Alpena, small town, 11,000 people. One of the local foundations has a dinner for the top 5% of the graduating class of Alpena High School. And the students who have excelled in high school bring their parents and also their favorite teacher from K through to, sometimes it's kindergarten teachers. And they're honored there for the influential role that they've had in the student's life. And last time we had one of those events, they also got to say where they're going to college. And the last time we had one of those events, University of Michigan and Alpena Community College were tied. There were as many of the top students who wanted to go to ACC for these kinds of reasons as there were at the renowned University of Michigan. So I was very pleased by that. It's a school of choice for people who have many options. Third type of student I talked about in the faculty forum is somebody who had, well, we euphemistically call it in Alpena, the one who had too much fun in high school, or a person who has never yet been very serious about the academic work, but and sometimes is here as a result of parental pressure, not really knowing why they're here. I think it's a community college's job in that situation to inspire, to help the love for learning catch fire within that person, to offer hope about possibilities. I think one big difference between a motivated student and one who's not is a motivated student has a dream, has a hope of a better life, that they can somehow translate into and connect to the work they're doing at the community college. The foundation work for people who are tested into levels of reading, writing, and math that aren't quite up to the college level. The support for people in courses where they need to acquire additional skills before taking college algebra or freshman composition. That has to be done in a very nurturing and also a very competent manner, in a manner that creates communities of students who help each other, because often it's the influence of your fellow students that has to do more with your own motivation, as you know, than that of the faculty members or the staff members. I guess there's a fourth type of student, too, somebody who has done other things in life, and maybe I'm thinking a little bit about my first example of the welder, but a lot of people try life without education for a while, bounce around, and has some good experiences and some not so good ones. And if they weren't motivated the first time, now they're motivated the second time, or sometimes the third and fourth time. So one of the challenges that community colleges face is to be very welcoming institutions of second chances, third chances for people who haven't had a good experience but still have that hope and that dream alive of making things better for themselves.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next question is, what do you feel are the major responsibilities of a president? And to follow up with that, how do you feel about taking on these responsibilities at GRCC?
Well, the major responsibilities of the president are to do everything possible to organize the college to fulfill the mission and the vision and the goals, or the ends as they're called at GRCC, that are set forth by the trustees. And it's great to see 4 of our trustees here present today. Trustees are representatives of the community. Community is our middle name at ACC and GRCC. And so the trustees are the ones who transmit information about community needs to the institution by setting those goals, those ends, the mission, the values, and the vision for the college. It's the president's main job to understand those thoroughly and then to organize the systems within the college that achieve those goals and to represent accountability back to the trustees for performance of the institution in a variety of different ways so that the trustees know that the institution is on track excuse me, or not on track and how to get it back on track. Now, as you might be familiar with, the ends and the goals of and the vision of excuse me, let me get my water, please. Grand Rapids Community College has the good fortune of very student-centered and learning-centered mission, value statements, ends, and vision statement. The vision statement of GRCC is extremely student-centered. GRCC is an organization dedicated to enriching the lives of students. You like that word, enriching? Enriching the lives of students and contributing to the vitality of the community. So if you would like to be enriched as a student, and if you would like to live in a vibrant, vital community, that's what the trustees have said GRCC is all about. I wouldn't want to be associated with an institution that didn't have as strongly a student-centered institutional statement as possible. The ends or main goals that have been set by the trustees do include things that are very dear to the heart of students who try to engage with the community college. Things like developmental education, things like workforce development. Probably most of you are going to want to go to work one day, right? And you're probably already working and you're seeking to advance and upgrade your skills so that you can work better and more effectively. Workforce development is one of those 7 main ends. Flexible learning. Flexible learning. All of us need flexibility, open entry, open exit. Courses scheduled, different lengths of times are part of that picture. Courses in locations maybe other than this campus that might be easier to access for students, that flexibility. Another one of those ends is lifelong learning. What you should see, of course, and you've heard this before, instead of getting your education over with when you're young, you are learning the skills now that you'll need in order to keep up with the changes in technology and the changes in our world today that will, I hope, make you want to come back to GRCC again and again and again, even after you've graduated and been credentialed. So that's the primary responsibility of the president to carry out the expressions of institutional purpose that the trustees have given.
Okay. All right. Our next question is, what role do you see the students playing in the college decision-making process?
Very good question. I think I can speak from the experience that I've had at Alpena Community College and the way that has worked. In a word, the students and their main representatives, like you would be, Sarah, need to have an open door of communication with the president about what the concerns and issues that the students have, be able to have an ability to express those in a direct way as well as in various indirect ways that you might have by communicating with people who are at other parts of the organization than the president. The thing that has worked extremely well at Alpena Community College for me, and I sort of turn back the question to you, what have you liked about Dr. Olivares' interaction and what maybe needs to be done differently? What I've done is set up with our student senate officers, a group of 7 or 8 students who've been elected by their peers. Our mascot is the lumberjack. Alpena was originally founded as a lumbering community. And we have a god-awful, ugly statue made out of auto parts, Kaiser Paul, the lumberjack, outside of our gym. But we have something called a Lumberjack Shack, a student snack bar, and twice a month I invite the 7 or 8 student Senate officers to eat lunch with me, be my guest, and we sit down and they show me the agendas of the student Senate meetings, the projects that the student Senate is trying to get some motion behind. And sometimes those are in the form of requests, the student request from the Student Senate that we're working most intently on. It's something you've already accomplished. Congratulations. But it's a wireless internet service for students throughout the campus. And we have a wireless internet for employees, but that's a secure system, and we need it for security purposes for the students to have a separate system. So for over a year, the students said that's really a priority. We want to be able to set up our laptops in these spaces where students congregate. And so we are in the final process of implementing that in direct response to the students' request. One thing that the students have requested a number of times that we haven't gotten our arms around yet is childcare on campus. And I don't know if that's an issue here and whether it's being implemented. I did see a play area in the registration place, some blocks and tables and stuff like that, but I don't know if that's the extent of it. But those are the kinds of things that need to come directly to the president for the president to hear the most sincere and heartfelt expression of those desires and needs by the students, and then to try to act upon if possible. So could I sort of turn the question back? What did Dr. Olivares do that was most effective with you and that you would want to see continued with the next president?
Anybody?
Yes.
Well, I was a part of the Presidential Leadership Academy.
And it meant a lot that he came in and wasn't afraid to allow the students to pick his brain and to ask him tough questions. And he was very open.
Just as you're doing today, huh?
Yep, he was very open and sincere, and I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you for the input.
One of the greatest things I loved about him is his diversity, his love of diversity, and how he had this quiet confidence when he was on campus. So if he came in a room, he didn't have that, like that kind of boisterous, like, oh, I'm the president of the college, but then at the same time, he wasn't just someone you overlooked. He had that quiet confidence about him, and he was approachable to the point where you could speak to him. Like, I was involved with the President's Leadership Academy as well, and just be able to, see him on campus and talk to him as well. Right. And that's the greatest thing. And I loved, just like I said earlier, his love of diversity here on campus.
Those are tremendous strengths.
Yes, he didn't run away from it.
That's good. Thank you for the input. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say I had the pleasure of meeting him in an informal setting. He was just a really easygoing individual. He wasn't all about business. He could just be relaxed.
Good. Was he a good listener? That sounds to me like he was, yeah. Oh, okay. Psych you out, huh? Well, good. Well, I heard a very moving story about his outreach to a student from Trustee Magini about 3 weeks ago. We were at a meeting in Michigan Community College Association. She told a story honoring Dr. Olivares' service here about how he was very busy coming out of a meeting, and there was a student who was in the parking lot or something in the wrong place and needed to go to another campus, if I remember the story correctly. And Dr. Olivares said, oh, well, let me show you where that is. Please follow me in my car. And Dr. Olivares led, instead of just pointing and giving directions, which, sometimes you have to do, but my preference has always been also walk the person over there, talk to him along the way, get to know him, or in this case, drive to the other location so the person would feel extremely well served. And the student just raved about that special attention from the president of the college. So that's a great example to follow. Thank you for that story, Jan, and one that I'll remember.
Everybody good on saying anything? Okay. All right. Our next question is, where do you see GRCC in 5 or 10 years?
Well, that's a good question. It kind of calls upon the president to be visionary, to look ahead. The vision statement of a college is the statement of its best future possibilities. And again, going back to the vision statement that's been formulated here at GRCC, you say you are dedicated to the enrichment of the lives of students and contributions to the vitality of the community. Those are two parts, aren't they? So what it calls for is seeing how far in the future you could imagine students' lives being more enriched. And of course, enriched doesn't just mean economically, but it does mean that. But in other ways, in relationships and cultural connections to the community, in the ability to conduct oneself, to have strong relationships, fulfilling relationships with family members, I would see a strong indicator of success in something that GRCC has been moving forward to. What would the level of volunteerism and community engagement be on the part of you who are here now 10 years from now? If there's any way to measure that and upgrade it, and to find that people who have been well served by GRCC want to then turn around and serve their own community, that would be a splendid way for GRCC to fulfill its vision through enrichment. I'd like to see 5 to 10 years you and your counterparts find the kind of employment that you want to seek to build your family life and engage in individual pursuits right here in the Grand Rapids area, if not in Michigan. The brain drain, the talent drain is something that Chairman Gary Schenck talked about at the dinner with the trustees last night. How many students are leaving, well-qualified people are leaving Michigan. So enrichment, a vision of GRCC's best future would be the people who have trained and advanced in their knowledge and skills here at GRCC would be in this community, volunteering, being employed, contributing to community life, having their families here, and then supporting GRCC in maybe teaching here, maybe volunteering here, maybe working here in other capacities, being the boosters, the donors, the supporters of GRCC, perhaps contributing, coming back and talking to the students who are then going to be there as experienced GRCC students and, emblems of success. The community vitality part of the vision of the college. Vitality means full of life. I see much evidence of life in the Grand Rapids area. You're privileged to live in one of the most vibrant places in the state as far as growth and development, construction, advancement, especially in the sciences and technology. But there's always a continuous process of improvement. It could be even more vibrant than that. When I told people in Alpena that I was coming to Grand Rapids and taking a look at this position, there was, among the young people that I talked to, there was a lot of envy because Grand Rapids is known as a magnet for people who have a lot of life themselves, a place where youth thrive and flourish and want to be. So congratulations, we can do even better in 5 or 10 years if we stay on the same track we're on.
Okay, our next question is 2 parts. What is your greatest strength? And then what is your greatest area for improvement?
Good question. I have to come back to integrity as the greatest strength. Being consistent, being a person of my word, telling the truth, being candid, honest, ethical. I think that's the bedrock of any leader. Whatever technical knowledge and skill you have, it means nothing unless you are a person who is trusted and respected in the regards to integrity and ethics. That has to be the foundation of any leader. Yes, there are some leaders who don't have a lot of that, and they're successful in the short term. But in the long term, there's nothing going to serve you better than to treat other people with decency and respect, to honor your word, to do what you say you're going to do, to be truthful. And so that's something I work very hard at, and I don't want to assess myself there, but others say that that's a real strength. As far as weakness goes, or area for improvement, I am kind of left-brained, and the right brain, left brain stuff stuff that's laid out in a logical and sequenced way makes a lot of sense to me. I am not the most creative idea generator around. So what do I need to do there? I need to depend on people who have that skill to be part of the team here, including the students. I mean, students, I've gotten some wonderful ideas from students where I was sort of maybe not producing the ideas, listening to other people for their input in that kind of area would be something I always have to remind myself to do. One of my mottos is about hiring. Actually, I have two of them. Hire people that are smarter than I am, and if you have, a strong sense of yourself, you're not going to be intimidated by working with people who are smarter than you are, especially in certain areas where you're not the best, but you're trying to be as good as you can be. The other motto I have is hire people who want your job, and that helps them work harder and helps you work harder too, just to keep up with them. So the collaboration, the teamwork that it takes when people have different strengths, but together as a team, you can make great things happen.
Okay, great. The next question is kind of broad. What kind of change would you bring to GRCC?
Change, my goodness. It's something we all have to live with. Let me first state that I am a person who is very comfortable with change. I like change. And I think creating a culture where there is trust and comfort in change is a big part of the president's job. It doesn't serve any institution or person well to just hold on to what you have out of insecurity that if you let go, the world's going to come to an end. So change involves risk. I think honoring people that take risks, that are well informed. When things don't work out, some well-intentioned projects runs awry. Instead of punishing people, compliment them for having the courage to try something different, give them the support to pick themselves back up again and try something else, keep on going. An example of that would be at Alpena Community College, the educational talent search program tried a different way of scheduling a career development nights that just utterly flopped. Do you punish them? No. You compliment them on trying something different, and they're going to get it right next time, whether it's returning to the earlier format. Changes in GRCC. That's something that I'd be hesitant to speak too strongly on now. But one of the things that I emphasize most, and I think has been most beneficial at ACC, and could be here, is focus on the core business, then making careful decisions about what's really your primary mission and what kinds of things are secondary, prioritization. Because an institution, especially the oldest community college in Michigan, has a tendency to grow, proliferate functions. And I'm not saying that that's, I don't know which things might fall in that category of maybe tangential operations, but I would be highly attuned to focusing the resources of GRCC where they will do the most good, going back to the mission and vision and values of the institution. I would be questioning, I think, some things that might look like they may be unnecessary, because stewardship, fidelity to the taxpayers that support the institution and the tuition payers like you, doing the best possible job with the resources we have is absolutely essential to build trust and confidence in the organization. So focusing on the core mission, and looking at, questioning, maybe even dispensing with things that don't meet that criterion of the core mission would be one of my leadership values.
Okay. You hit part of the next question with your 4 students definition, but this starts out with, what do you think students want to achieve at GRCC, and how can you help them achieve these goals?
Well, I do think every student who goes to a community college, or nearly everyone, envisions themselves as being part of the workforce, working in some capacity, being productive, And so finding the right program to match the students' talents and interests. I've seen some of your facilities for career placement and career counseling. That's a big part of it. I think students are also looking for community when they come to a community college. It sounds rather simplistic, but it's true. I don't think that students really want to just come to class and not meet anybody and go home and do their homework and take their tests. There are some students who are so busy and so maybe overwhelmed with other responsibilities that that's all they're able to do. But I think what students are looking for and hungering for and will exercise the opportunity to find whenever possible is community, connection with other students, through student activities, through student, the Student Senate organization. That's probably not the right terminology here, but student ambassador, the ambassador program, I think will give people that connection. Learning communities, which are combinations of classes in more than one discipline where two instructors collaborate, creating an environment that helps people work together as teams. So that sense of community, in addition to preparing for work and future life. And I think students also have a great desire to be respected by the college staff and faculty, to be honored for their efforts and their sacrifices, and you know what those sacrifices are like, to be honored for their sacrifices and to be given the kind of support that they need in order to succeed in an institution that has very high standards and high expectations.
Our next question is, coming from Alpena, how will you make a transition to a much larger urban community?
I actually do have an answer. Actually, it's a twofold answer. It's rather like the question when I came from Houston up to Alpena. I needed to anticipate the question, how in the world are you going to get used to our cold weather? It's such a big change. And I guess I have thought about that. I have a twofold answer. There are some things that about presidential leadership that don't matter with regard to size. They are the same at a small institution, medium institution, large institution like GRCC. Again, I'd come back to integrity, communication, accountability, trust, those kinds of things. You know, they don't come in different sizes. They are what they are. They're absolutes, you could say. The other part of my answer is, although Alpena Community College is about the 10th the size of GRCC, and it's situated in a small community of 11,000, county of 29,000. Most of my working career has been at a community college system that now has 45 or 50,000 students. So I was a faculty member for 20 years. Starting out, it was in the northern suburbs of Houston, the first of what eventually over 20 years became 5 colleges. It grew and it grew and it grew, tremendous demand. And so I ended up there in Houston as a vice president in a system that was huge and had to deal with all the complexities of interaction in a very large system. So I've seen the small, but I've also worked in a very large college system, and I'm comfortable with the complexities of a college of this size that is Grand Rapids, and have professional career experience working in that type of environment.
Okay, this next question has 2 parts again. The first one is, what was your major accomplishments as president of Alpena Community College? And the second one is, can you lead us to a millage victory?
Well, let me take the second one first. That depends on what the trustees' desire is as to when to go. We had some discussion about that over dinner last night, and the trustees are, the answer that they gave me is that at least to wait a while, whether after trying again would be the best strategy to assess, analyze what happened. However, I would have put in that 2 weeks ago, Alpena Community College was successful at not only a millage renewal, but also an increase to overcome the effects in our millage rate of the Headley Amendment. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Headley was a legislator that very concerned about taxation and had a mechanism in the law to reduce the tax rate of an entity as property values rise. And so that means we were getting less and less by law. But you can go back to the voters and say, can we have the full amount that you originally voted for? And we were successful 2 weeks ago in our bid for renewal and restoration, which was an increase. So I have some experience. Again, it's a small community, and the things that worked there might not necessarily work here. But I would look to the trustees for their leadership in the question of whether, and if so, when and how we try again with the millage. Let's see. Accomplishments at Alpena Community College. Just yesterday, I was in front of the faculty and staff. We had our kickoff day, and I had a little presentation called Milestones of Progress for Alpena Community College, which is just over the past year. The first had to do with capital improvements or improvements in our buildings and facilities. We finished up and moved into a brand new art building. We did have art instruction in a decrepit high school about half a mile down the road. Now we have the artists on campus, and it's wonderful to see that. The second has been really strong enrollment growth at Alpena Community College, which has been needed. We live in one of the least educated areas of Michigan, and so having more people come to the college has been a big part of my work and the work of the staff there. In the spring semester, we had 14% increase in credit instruction students, and just got barely edged out for first place in Michigan community colleges for the greatest increase of enrollment growth. So that was one of them. A third was accreditation. We recently went through a process of studying ourselves and being reviewed by officials of the Higher Learning Commission, and we were granted another 10 years of accreditation, so that's extremely important for what we're doing. Instructional program growth. We are starting a physical therapist assistant program, and I know you don't have that here, but there might be some interest in collaboration with 2 other community colleges in Michigan. And expanding our nursing program. We have a unique program called Concrete Technology. There's a cement industry up there that we've also been able to get a $2 million Department of Labor grant to expand and improve. And then the fifth one was the millage. So those are the recent accomplishments at Alpena Community College that I've been charged with to carry out by the trustees, and we've been successful at.
Okay. And I think this will be our last question. Or do we have time for about 5 minutes? Okay. So depending on the length of the answer. This says, no. Affirmative action is a sensitive subject in Michigan. What is your perspective regarding affirmative action?
Well, I look at affirmative action as one of the tools in the toolkit, although there have been some legal challenges to it lately in Michigan, tools in the toolkit for contributions to diversity. And diversity itself is of tremendous value in contributing to a student's education and to an employee's ability to do work in the best possible way. Excuse me. So again, if you start with the big picture, why we are here, education and learning, you can't do that without diversity. And in one form or fashion, one of the elements of diversity is programs of affirmative action. The value of diversity in my own teaching field, which is philosophy, has to do with questioning people's assumptions. What's the meaning of life? What are we really here for? What's the difference between right and wrong? And as an instructor of philosophy, I always tried to shake people out of that Western mindset and look at cultures from around the world. I had philosophy texts from Asia, from Africa, from all parts of the world, and helping students to look at things from a wider perspective than what they might have been brought up to believe, and to rethink some of their fundamental assumptions through exposure and interaction to diverse points of view. That was a lot of what I did as an instructor. As an administrator, it's extremely important to promote a climate of respectfulness, an appreciation of different points of view and different heritages on a campus. Part of my experience in Texas was being what they call the civil rights administrator for the campus, and that meant that I had the responsibility of handling any complaints about discrimination that arose on our campus, and listening to the parties, trying to sort out the truth from the stuff that wasn't so true, getting everybody's perspective in there and making a judicious decision or recommending one to the president, so that we ensured that we had a climate of fairness and equal treatment and respect for diversity on our campus. Third aspect is, I think a community college has a tremendous opportunity to promote education and other types of programs for understanding of diversity. We can't just be passive, wait till somebody who's different encounters us. We have to be active and proactive and reach out. This morning, one of the things that I was able to see was your Office for Diversity and the lecture series. What a great example of how GRCC reaches out in this field and promotes it. It's, as you say, an extremely important component, the education. Something that I said in my letter of application to the trustees and other groups I miss in Alpena, which was 98.5% white. In Houston, however, there was a rich mix of, when I was there, Texas became a majority-minority state. A big influx of Latinos, and that was exciting and challenging and enriching environment. It's one of the things that I'm seeking in looking at a place like Grand Rapids to move to. So I hope that answered the question.
Yes, great. Do one more. Yeah, okay. Our student life involvement is going up. How do you plan to support student life here at GRCC?
Well, again, one of my watchwords is try to hit the ground listening, seek first to understand and then to be understood. So if I were your next president, I would want to understand what the interests in student life programs was and what new programs or expansions of existing programs the students themselves would want. And through some of the listening processes I've described at ACC that I might be able to bring here, I would be trying to get a good picture of that from you and from the staff who have developed professional expertise in knowing what works for students and maybe what doesn't work. Then I think the process would go to things like budget, facilities, what supports, what resources do we have that we're able to devote to student life. Which of those are doable this year, which might have to wait till next year. Again, I would hope there's a healthy process for helping or including students in the process of prioritizing those. You might have 50 possibilities and you got to get down to 7 or 8. So how do you sort through that? I think inclusion, consensus, getting everybody's input in the way, and then having me and other administrative officers make the final recommendations, and then as we recommend a budget to the trustees, would be the process, the methodology that I would follow in expanding student life.
Okay. Do you want one more? Or? Okay, why don't we end with this one? Where do you feel tuition rates will go in the near future?
Oh, my goodness.
End with a good one.
Yeah. Let's see. I pledge to cut tuition rates if I'm your next. I would say that community colleges have been very successful in keeping tuition rates low compared to state universities, and that's a very important part of our mission. It varies from institution to institution how much tuition is necessary to charge in order to keep the quality of the programs and the services high, which is what everybody wants. All community colleges are getting less from the state of Michigan in form of state aid than they did in 2002 when it peaked. In Alpena Community College's case, it's about $500,000 less. And so we have to somehow solve the financial equations because nobody wants to come on a crummy campus. Nobody wants to be taught by underqualified instructors. Nobody wants to have the hours of operation for student services and the library curtailed because of budget cuts to the point where you're frustrated all the time. You can't get the business done that's necessary. So keeping the tuition as low as possible relative to the needs and the fluctuating levels of state support is one of the things that a president has to grapple with, and I have grappled with. Kept our tuition increases within 4.5–5% at ACC. Another very strong component has to do with the support of the foundation for the college in scholarships. See, what really matters to a student is not how high the tuition rate is if you have financial need, but what's the net effect if there are lots of scholarships available that keep up with any increases that are necessary. The net effect of the student can remain the same or even be better. Okay, so one of the things I've always done in Alpena, if we're looking at a tuition increase, I always check with, well, how have the scholarship programs increased? Have they increased, this is my standard, have the scholarships available increased at least as much as the amount of tuition we are contemplating asking? So last go round, our scholarships had increased by 6%. I went to the board with a request for a little over 4%. But the net effect for the students, the amount of aid that was available for people who needed it, was commensurate, and that's part of serving students and making the access possible. So that's my philosophy of tuition.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's a thrill to be here, and I want to compliment you on the great work you're doing here. Splendid community college, one of the best I've ever seen.
Thank you, Dr. Joynton. Thank you, Sarah, for hosting today.
Thank you, Tina.
I just remind everyone to please fill out your feedback sheets. The Board of Trustees in this process.
You get to grade me, right?
Yeah, they're all in their front row too, so
right.
I'm sure they're all A students. So again, thank you so much, and we're going to take you on to the next part of the program.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate the hospitality.